It's out of bounds here on a wide open Wednesday. Appreciate everybody listening in this afternoon as we are live from Fassler Hall here in Little Rock, hanging out and getting ready for the 2023 road show for the Razorbacks tonight. Doors open at 5:30. I know they got a ton of people that RSVP'd to this thing, so it's going to be a great deal. And I know that we're going to hear from some coaches and hopefully from Hunter Yurachek. I know he's going to be making the trip there as well. But looking forward to seeing everybody out here this afternoon and into the evening as well at Fassler Hall here in Little Rock. But we know on a wide open Wednesday, too, we talk about a lot of different things. And something that I know that a lot of you remember me talking about was, of course, Nirvana Med Spa, which is a great, incredible company that has done so many different things when it comes to health. And joining us now in studio is Dr. Hashmi of Nirvana Med Spa. And Doctor, we really appreciate you joining us and getting in studio. It's nice to have you on. How you doing this afternoon?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me here. How are you doing?
Well, I'm doing great, and we appreciate you being a part of Out of Bounds here for a few months. And I know that it's something that you're very passionate about with Nirvana Med Spa. So for those that may not remember, or maybe those that are still interested in what all goes on, just tell us about what Nirvana Med Spa is and the type of services that you offer to so many different people.
So, it is all about providing aesthetic services and it is all about providing quality care in aesthetics. There's a huge need and there's a huge vacuum of aesthetic services in Little Rock as well as in whole of Arkansas. Aesthetics is a kind of a newer specialty coming up, and I just did my board certification in aesthetics. So it is the idea was everything aesthetic under one roof. So we've got the three or four aestheticians that do basic facials, dermaplaning, and micro needling with PRP. But me personally, I am a little bit on the surgical side. I do hair transplant surgeries, and we also take care of other issues like uh, personal issues with men, where we take care of their erectile dysfunction problems and some female problems as well that include vaginal rejuvenations and things like that become a little bit more invasive. But other than that, usually what we do is we've got two one of two best laser hair removal machines, as well as from the Alma lasers, a machine that is actually one platform that can provide 50 different FDA approved services. So we can take care of acne scars, we can take care of melasma, hyperpigmentation, we do body contouring, you name it, and we do it aesthetics. So that's what we are all about. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's I know that's with all the things that you guys offer and the different services. What would you say has been the most popular, or the one that you've been doing the most here recently when it comes to those services?
Well, laser hair removal is very famous, and there are so many machines out there. But the one that we use is the Soprano Ice, which is a virtually painless machine, and that is a big sell, and people utilize those services, especially since we are getting into the summer season and everyone's going to be heading towards the beach, so they want their beach body. So we do the laser hair removal along with body contouring, and that is very famous. And men like my age and all those men who are getting a little bit older, who start losing hair and start suffering from male pattern baldness, the hair transplants that we do, they are very successful as well.
Yeah, I know that some things that if you just check out the website, nirvana-medspa.com, you get to see all the different services and everything that happens, as well as reviews and patient resources. It's a great thing. So, doctor, if people are more interested in having and hearing more about these services, or maybe some things that they can have done to them and things that they're interested in, what is the best way to go about finding out more information and being able to use some of the great services that Nirvana Med Spa offers?
So there are several different ways that we have put in place. You can actually call our office directly, which is 501-673-3017, or you can go to our website, which is www.nirvana-medspa.com, and you can send in a request through our website, look up those services, what you're interested in, send us a message, and someone will get back to you as soon as possible. Or you can go to our Instagram page, send us a message from there, or our Facebook page. We are at Instagram. On Instagram, we are just look up, if you look up at Nirvana underscore Med Spa, or if you look up on Facebook and just search for Nirvana Med Spa Little Rock, and we'll pop up, and you can send us a message through there. So there's a 4 or 5 different ways you can get in contact with us, and we'll take care of you.
All right, sounds good. Well, Dr. Hashmi, we really appreciate you coming on and telling us about the great company that is Nirvana Med Spa. Again, you can follow them on Instagram, as well as check out their website, nirvana-medspa.com, right here in Little Rock. You can call them too at 501-382-7370. So, Doc, really appreciate it. Enjoy the rest of the week, and appreciate you being a part of Out of Bounds. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Nice talking to you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Again, Dr. Hashmi of Nirvana Med Spa joining us there in studio. It's a wide open Wednesday, folks, as we're live from Fassler Hall here in Little Rock, getting set up for the road show as the Razorbacks are going to be coming into town and rolling into town. I know a lot of people are going to be hanging out here and having a good old time alongside with it. And actually, I love Fassler, Joe. I know I've been here a few times, but for those of you who haven't been out here, it's a really cool setup. It kind of gives the old school cafeteria type vibe, but they have a lot of German food and different sausages and appetizers and all that stuff too. So even if you're coming out to see the Razorback Road Show, they got a lot of great options here to be a part of it as well. But we will continue on in talking about all the things happening here. And hopefully I'll get me a little schnitzel and have some fun with maybe a cheddar wurst or a frankenfurt or something like that. But it'll be great to be a part of it here. A few people have already chimed in on our first Arkansas Bank and Trust text line, as well as our Asher Record Live fan feedback. Ashton says the LSU bullpen lost them the last 2 series. They won't make it out of their own regional, and Arkansas will smoke them if they match up in Hoover. Skins and their hitting is the only thing that is carrying LSU at this point. I mean, their bullpen is not great, as we know, and they've had some struggles there too. But I mean, I hate being this way because it's almost a cop-out answer. It's almost like a reoccurring thing or a broken record, however you want to put it. But it's true. It's like none of that matters to me. People saying, "Oh, well, this team's not any good right now." Does not matter. Because as we see every single year, postseason play is where it's at. And if you're playing your best, those are the teams usually win it. Ole Miss struggled last year. They weren't good last year. They struggled at the end of the season last year. They barely got into the tournament, and look what happened. Now, I know that was more of the exception to the rule, but we've seen it happen so many times where teams that a lot of people count out or don't have them as a 1, 2, 3 seed or whatever, they still find ways to win. So, yeah, I get it. They have the talent. They have the majority of the reasons to believe that there'll still be a College World Series team, but I'm not going to buy anything or believe anything if a team's good or bad until postseason, until College World Series happens, because it's just hard for me to get really excited about it too.
Yeah, we know that during the season, it matters. It matters what happens during the season to get in position to have a good seed for the playoffs for the postseason. So that's the part that matters for the regular season. But regular season, postseason, you have to separate it in a sense that once you get the postseason, everything starts over. So the best teams from the regular season, they may have had the best records, but that has no bearing on what happens in the postseason. We've seen a case of that with the NBA playoffs. We're talking about 7 and 8 seeds that are in the conference finals now. So for 7 and 8 seeds to make it to the conference finals, you know that they had to knock off some of those top seeds at the beginning of the playoffs just to get to where they are. So that's something that not sure that everybody fully understands or even wants to get with, because they feel like you should be rewarded for what you did in the regular season, and you are rewarded because you get a higher seed. You get to play against teams that have lesser records in a sense, but once you get to the postseason, everything starts fresh, and those teams that don't have as good records, especially if you're talking about not even in a series, but in a one and done type scenario, that anything can happen there. But we're talking about one game and you're playing against a lower seed. So you can't just count on the fact that teams have higher seeds and those are the teams that are going to advance and get to championship rounds of playoffs. That's just not how it happens.
And that's why we even have the postseason. That's why we have playoffs, whether it's NBA playoffs or super regionals and regionals and college baseball. It's like, they just, it's kind of funny saying it in college football because this is pretty much what they did for so long. But if you just took the 2 teams and that was it from the regular season and just threw it in and said, that's the championship game, would, people say, oh, okay, well, does that decide your true champion? Some people may agree, but at the same time, man, when people come back from injuries or when You have teams that are surging and getting figured it out later. There's a lot of different deals that can go into it to show that, hey, just because you had the best regular season overall doesn't mean that the team that's right there at number 3 or the team that surged is not the best team right now. So I get that people, look at it and say, oh, 1 seed, therefore they're the best team. Well, especially in baseball, there's a reason why the 1 seed has only won it once since 1999. So
sports
it just hasn't.
Yeah, sports have expanded over the years as far as the postseason, and we're seeing a lot more of that as far as how many teams are involved in the postseason. We've seen it a number of times that it's happened over so many years where it has expanded. And here, most recently, all sports are starting to add more teams to the mix. Now, people that have been watching for such a long time, they kind of like the way that it once was, where the top seeds did get that automatic bid and get, not only 2 championships, but maybe 2 semifinals, and you had just a few teams. But as you add teams and there's expansion, you have to incorporate more teams. And of course, more money comes into the fold. And this is where we are with every sport seeming to add teams to their playoffs. Now, people that like the traditional setup, they don't like the fact that when one of these lower seeds that hasn't performed well all year in the regular season, when they happen to go on and win in the postseason and they win their championship, or they eliminate some of these higher seeds early in some of these playoff rounds, like the Boston Bruins had an incredible historic NHL season, and then they get eliminated in the first round. There's a certain number of people that don't like to see things like that happen, but you have to accept that this is how it is now. This is where the sports are, and they're just going to continue to evolve.
Yep. And as you mentioned it's all about money. I mean, it's sometimes you'll have it about the best for the game and whatnot, but the expansions and everything, people see dollar signs and they're going to make it happen. And, it's just something you got to accept. Something you got to accept and something you got to deal with. And hey, speaking of which, in the NBA too, I know we were going to talk about this as well, but the NBA draft lottery happened last night, and the San Antonio Spurs, the team with Greg Popovich, as we talked about yesterday, how long he's been there and been a part of it. Well, guess what? They get the number 1 overall pick in the NBA draft. And man, oh man, I'm going to have to, how do you say his name, Joe? You're going to have to teach me how to say it. Victor
Wembanyama.
Wembanyama. It's fun to say once you get it, but he's going to be the number 1 overall pick. It looks like San Antonio is going to be the spot, but the fact that they're going to have that thing, man, it can be a franchise-changing player, and who knows, with that pick and some other guys too, Spurs has a very bright future, especially getting that number 1 overall pick that's highly coveted.
That's the one. That's the one that everybody was after. And we've seen what the Spurs have done in the past with some of the number 1 overall picks. David Robinson in 87, Tim Duncan in 97. And now everything comes full circle. Victor Wembanyama here in 2023. So we've seen this movie before, and now it's going to be about putting pieces around him, because you know that he can be a dynamic franchise type changing player, but even with those type players, you still need other players around them, and that's where the Spurs are. But Pop, that may have opened the door for him to coach. Who knows how long he wanted to coach to begin with, but now that opens the door for him to coach just a little bit longer, because you have that incredible talent there with Spurs.
Yeah, they get the number 1 overall pick, and they were tied for the team that had the best chance at 14%. But the Hornets at 12.5% and the Trailblazers at 10.5%, they end up with the 2nd and 3rd picks. And then the other 2 teams with 14% that were tied with the Spurs, Rockets and Pistons, get the 4 pick and the 5 pick respectively. So, again, the team that did have, or at least tied for the most best odds to win the lottery did win it. But Rockets and Pistons, dropping down to 4 and 5. That's why they call it a lottery, is it's got great chances for it, but doesn't always give you any guarantees, as those 2 teams are put back a few picks, as they'll be getting 4 and 5.
When it came down to the final 2, Spurs and Hornets, so you're thinking about the history with the Spurs, first of all, but then the Hornets, Michael Jordan, are they really going to make this happen where the Hornets get the number 1 overall pick, and then you're able to get a boost to the Hornets, but of course, when they pulled the cards, it was the Spurs once again. So it kind of went as expected, as far as there were some people that predicted the Spurs would get the number 1 overall pick. My brother, in fact, said it 2 months ago. He said it's going to be the Spurs. Because there's always conspiracy theories with the NBA. We saw that when they got the lottery with LeBron, who's an Akron guy, and he ends up going to the Cavs. And even when LeBron left, the Cavs somehow got the number 1 pick a couple of times when LeBron was gone. So how did that actually happen? There's conspiracy theories for it.
Yeah, what was it? I guess when they got LeBron, but when he left, they're always like, "Oh, poor Cleveland. Here you go. Here, we'll get you guys another number 1 pick or a couple number 1 picks." Because what was it? 3 out of 4 years they had the number 1 pick or something like that. It felt like they had the number 1 pick for a pretty good stretch there of getting big time guys. Or maybe I'm just thinking of something different. I can't remember.
It happened a couple of times for sure.
Yeah, that was wild. But yeah, if you're a Spurs fan, you got to be excited about that. And getting back to some prominence there, as we know, Wembanyama, and I keep saying it that way. He's a great player. That's a game changing type guy too. And it's amazing to see just the guys and how hyped, and just when the lottery gets announced, it's kind of like when you're Wembanyama, you might as well get drafted. It's like once it gets announced, you're like, all right, that's the team I'm going to. It's not official yet, but that's going to be the team where I'm going to be looking at and heading down there to San Antonio. So
he was with his family in France, and they had a live feed. Brian Windhorst was there to interview him, and they were celebrating. They were really happy about seeing that it was the Spurs, with the connections with Tony Parker playing for the Spurs and the history that they have with some of the French players, some of the international players. It was 2:30 a.m. in France, and it was one of those moments where everybody was going to stay up to see what was happening at that time.
Yeah, well, Brian Wright, who's the general manager of the Spurs, he is pumped up and he is excited about it too. He says when you use the word generational talent, it extends beyond our ability to put the ball in the basket. He's so unique in so many different ways. And he says he's an incredible guy for the franchise, for the fans, for the entire organization. We're incredibly excited about the future. And he also talks about the fact that, other French players like Tony Parker, for instance, Boris Diaw, guys that played with the Spurs. Brian Wright laughed and says, well, we don't need to hire a translator because we're used to having some French guys in here. So I thought that was a pretty funny comment. But it is pretty wild that, 2 of their guys, especially one of them being Tony Parker, which was such a pivotal part of all those championships they won, all French guys. So they've had some history with getting some of these really great French players to come into the franchise as well.
That's why the family was really excited about it. Now, they would have been excited no matter what team he was going to, because knowing that he's going to be the number 1 overall pick and that he's going to have an opportunity to come to the United States, play in the NBA. He said that was a dream of his, but it makes it a little bit more special that it was the Spurs, and with everything that's happened with them historically.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting to see how all that plays out. By the way, since Wide Open Wednesday, first Arkansas Bank and Trust text line, I got this from the 870. It says, heading up to Rabbit Ridge this weekend to see some family. Enjoy the show, guys. Well, if you're seeing family, you're seeing my family too, because that's where my family farm's at, up there in Rabbit Ridge. So shout out to them, and appreciate you listening into the show, because anytime that I'm up there in Rabbit Ridge, it just reminded that not only is it awesome having the family farm up there, but everybody's related up there too at some form or fashion. So it's pretty cool, and just, again, small world. And how about that? But wanted to give a shout out to them. We are up against it, broadcasting live from Fassler Hall here in Little Rock for the 2023 Razorback Road Show. We'll take a break. When we come back, we're going to get to what's trending in the world of sports, presented by West Rock Coffee. You won't want to miss it, so stay tuned. You're on Out of Bounds.
If you're shopping for a vehicle, you want to get to Gwatney Chevrolet. Gwatney has the best deals in the market. Been doing it 60-plus years. Give them a call, 501-982-2102. Gwatney Chevrolet, you can get great deals, no payments for 90 days, so you can get in a new vehicle, and you don't have to worry about making any payments on it right away. 1.9% financing is available on Blazer, Equinox, Trailblazers, Traverse, Silverados that are equipped with Turbo Max, and you can do that when financing with GM and a well-qualified buyer. Make the trip to the Gregory Street exit in Jacksonville. Shop them online, GwatneyChevrolet.com. You can see all the deals, the cash allowances, the rebates, even appraise a vehicle. See just how much it's worth. They're giving thousands over book value, whether you trade that vehicle in or you sell it to Gwatney Chevrolet. Gwatney is always actively buying vehicles, so you get a great deal on that vehicle that you trade in or sell. See the entire inventory of new and pre-owned vehicles on GwatneyChevrolet.com. And if you need a service, they have convenient service hours throughout the week. Also Saturday, 7 a.m. until noon in case you can't make it throughout the week. It's Gwatney Chevrolet, Arkansas's #1 Chevy dealer. Gwatney Chevrolet, GwatneyChevrolet.com.
It is a wide open Wednesday here on Out of Bounds, broadcasting live from Fassler Hall here in Little Rock for the 2023-1 Razorback Road Show. We're going to have Pat Bradley joining us here in about 15 minutes. Looking forward to catching up with him and getting his thoughts and opinions on all things going on in the sports world, especially the basketball side of things. But there is a lot of things that are happening, so let's go ahead and jump right into what's trending in the world of sports. All right, what's trending in the world of sports? In case you're just joining us, got some sad news for Razorback baseball. Peyton Stovall, our guy that joins us each and every Monday, he is going to be out for the season, according to Dave Van Horn, and he's going to have surgery on a torn labrum. So hate to hear that, but wish him a speedy recovery and getting back into the mix next year, and he's going to still fall around the team. And, again, he's still going to be joining us here on Out of Bounds each and every week. So glad to hear that and glad that he is still in good spirits about it too. But really sad deal. But in the NBA, you had the Denver Nuggets take care of business against the Lakers 132-126 in Game 1 as Jokic just goes crazy, 34 points, 21 rebounds, 14 assists for him. And Game 2 will be held in Denver, of course. But tonight you also have the other side of things with the Eastern Conference Finals, Heat and Celtics. That game's going to be at 7:30 in Boston tonight on TNT. According to Bet Saracen, Boston's favored by 8 points in that game. So hopefully it ends up being just as entertaining as the game was last night. But still some really good matchups there in the Eastern and Western Conference Finals. Also in the NBA, the Spurs won the lottery for the #1 overall pick in the NBA draft this upcoming year. The Hornets with the #2, Trailblazers #3, Rockets #4, Pistons 5, and then the Magic 6, Pacers 7, Wizards 8, Jazz 9, and Mavericks get #10. I think we all agree that Anthony Black will be the first Razorback taken in the NBA draft. So, Joe, which team do you think Anthony Black would be taken, assuming he's a top 10 pick? Which one do you think would be either a good fit or a place that you think that he'll end up winding up?
Mavs would be a good pick at #10, Chicago Bulls 11. So there's a couple of good spots. Houston Rockets, Ime Udoka taking over there. That'd be good. But most mock drafts had him going to the Washington Wizards at #8. And that's something that can change a lot between now and then. But early mock drafts had him going to the Wizards at 8.
Well, I mean, it could be a lot worse, but I guess he'd be there with Daniel Gafford, right? So 2 former Razorbacks that would be in there in the mix for Washington. So
Portland Trailblazers at 3, also Dame Lillard.
Yep.
Assuming that Dame is still there with the Blazers, because his name comes up in trade talks every year. Stephen A. was already calling for the Knicks to trade for him.
Well, hey, listen, if that ends up happening too, it's going to be a wild free agency and a wild offseason. Normally is in the NBA, but could have some serious dominoes begin to fall. Also in some other news too, this was something for all you video gamers out there. I know that I was one of the kids that played EA Sports college football or NCAA football for many years. We know that it was stopped because of the lawsuit that was filed from O'Bannon about not having the name, image, and likeness compensated for the student athletes. Well, now that NIL is impacted, we know that the game is going to be coming out in 2024 in the summertime, so next summer. And what's great about the game itself is that they're going to facilitate collegiate athletes' names and likenesses to where you can opt in if you're a football player. So if you want to be in the game and have your likeness used and be able to make some compensation from it, you will do it. And I'll just be curious, Joe, will there be any players that say no to that? Like, it feels like it would just be something that every player would want to be because, hey, what do you got to do? Just be in a video game and get paid for it. But I'll be curious to see what the percentages are as far as how many teams and how many players end up jumping into the mix there as well.
Well, it depends on how much they're talking about paying. There will be some players that feel like they have a higher worth, and if they're not offering what they feel, then they may hold out and try to get more money.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be curious to see what the percentages actually end up being, and how much money that they actually end up getting out of it too. It's pretty still new and still in the fresh part of it, but at least the game's going to be made, and some people are going to be saying that it's going to be one of the best games ever. But I have my doubts because I really don't like EA Sports.
That's kind of where we are now. That's how we got to where we are because of NIL, and now you're able to get those guys in the game. That's where it all started. They wanted a part of it, and now the game gets to come back.
Yeah, it's all come full circle essentially for that too. And we talked about this yesterday, and the whole ordeal, and the Yankees with Aaron Judge, and what is he looking over in the Blue Jays, and was he cheating and all of that? Well, Blue Jays pitcher Jay Jackson said he was tipping his pitches while facing Yankee star Aaron Judge, who of course received the widespread scrutiny for that sideways glance. And of course, the broadcasters talked about it too, but Jay Jackson said, from what I was told, I was kind of tipping the pitch. It was less of my grip, and I was coming behind my ear. It was the time when it was taking me from my set position and from my glove coming off the head of my hip. On fastballs, I was kind of doing it quicker than on sliders, and they were picking up on it as well. So I guess just another element of the thing about I don't know what gate to call it, because I always feel like there's some sort of gate added to it, but I still think it's overblown. I still think it's dumb, and I still think it just move on and just keep playing baseball.
That's happened in baseball since the beginning of time. It's happening now. It's going to continue to happen where players are able to pick up on certain things. And who's to blame for that? The pitcher is. The pitcher is to blame, because once you realize it, then you have to change what you're doing that they're picking up on. You have to change what you have going on.
Yeah, because to me, I'm like, if you're in football and the defense keeps having, the safety creep up, and it's kind of their tell of saying, oh, they're about to blitz, and you see that as a quarterback or as a coaching staff, and you change it up or you call an audible or whatever, is that like some sort of controversy? No, it's just part of the game, part of the strategy. So just tighten up your game. Don't let yourself be seen, and, try to be a little bit more subtle about it. But I mean, I'm sure everybody will get over it. But it's still just funny that that's still a thing. But either way, we'll have some more headlines to get into as the show goes on. I know that we'll talk some more NBA and also some of the Ja Morant situations that have come up, especially with Adam Silver finally speaking out about it. But we got to take a top of the hour update when we come back. Pat Bradley will be joining us thanks to Motorsports Authority as we broadcast live from Fassler Hall here in Little Rock, part of the 2023 Razorback Road Show. You won't want to miss it because the second hour of Out of Bounds is coming up next, so stay with us. 1 hour down, 2 hours to go. Appreciate everybody listening in on this beautiful day here in the great state of Arkansas. John Nabors broadcasting live from Fassler Hall here in Little Rock as part of the 2023 One Razorback Road Show. Got Joe Franklin back in the Hogs Meat Market Studios with you today. And thank you as always for making us a part of your afternoon this afternoon. It has been a wide open Wednesday here on Out of Bounds as we've been discussing everything in the sports world, giving our thoughts and prayers out to our guy Peyton Stovall, dealing with a season-ending injury. We also talk NBA playoffs, NBA draft lottery, and we'll have some other things to dive into as well. And hopefully get to hear from some people that will be involved here at the One Razorback Road Show. Maybe a coach, we'll see. But we're still going to have some fun with all the things going on in the sports world because it is a Wednesday and it is a 2 o'clock hour. And as we know, our guy Pat Bradley always joins us, so let's go ahead and welcome him in on the Jones and Son Diamond and Bridal Fine Jewelry Hotline. All thanks in part to Motorsports Authority. And PB, appreciate you joining us, man. How you doing this afternoon?
PB must not be available right now.
All right. Okay, so I guess we will wait.
We'll catch up with him.
Yeah, we'll get with PB later on, but. Still, when we'll talk about the basketball side of things too, in the NBA and all the stuff that's been going down there, especially with the playoffs and also the NBA Combine, which I'm curious about to get his thoughts because we've talked about the players from Arkansas, especially being invited to the Combine. They had 4 players with not only Anthony Black but Ricky Council and Jordan Walsh and Anthony Black, Nick Smith Jr. I should say too. But they have been going through their measurements and everything, but it certainly seems like Jordan Walsh has been the guy that has been stepping up and really just rocketing up in his draft stock, which, I mean, does that mean he's going to be a first-round pick? Don't really know. There's a long time until the NBA draft happens, but he was kind of the guy that some of us felt like, okay, maybe he's a borderline draft pick, but from looking at his measurements, from looking at some of the drills that he's been going through, and even looking at some of the scrimmages that has been going on too, man, it seems like he's been doing a really good job and possibly playing his way into being a second-round pick, which Razorbacks getting 4 draft picks, which is what it looks like at this point in time. Man, that's something that'll be really huge, not only for, of course, Arkansas to have as something to hold their hat on, but also for Jordan Walsh and taking that next step and trying to go pro and get drafted by an NBA team.
Jordan Walsh has been on the NBA radar for a few years now, so they knew what they were getting in him. They know about his size, his length, and what he brings defensively. That was on display at Arkansas. And for him to play on the next level, it's going to be about developing his offensive game. And so that's what scouts are wanting to see from him now. Where is his offensive game, what the potential may be, and where they could possibly take that. But he was always thought to be at least a second-round pick. And then when you get in front of the scouts and they see you against other elite competition, that's where you continue to shine, and that's what he's done so far.
Yeah, and I think it's great for him because we know he had the frame, he had the all the abilities with the long arms and the athleticism, but just trying to get things going and trying to figure out how it's approached and find some sort of role to play. He really came on as of late, but I think the upside for him is extremely high. And I even saw that when they put out the percentages of 3-point shooting and all of that, he was one of the ones that I think they each shot 12 threes or something like that, and he hit 6 of 12. So not to say that, what does that mean in a game? But still, a guy that wasn't really known for getting a lot of shots off or anything except for late, to have that type of percentage is a pretty impressive thing overall too.
His shot always looked good, so it becomes a matter of, can he become that knockdown shooter, especially when they leave him open? Is he going to be able to be that type of player? Because right now, that's kind of what he'll be given. He'll be given that space, and we see that there are certain players, they are given that type of space where their shot is not necessarily respected, but once you start knocking down that shot, then they have to guard you and give you that type of respect in a sense. So right now, he would have that ability, though, if he continues where he is. He does stay within the NBA draft. He gets drafted, goes to an NBA team. That's where it would start with him having that wide open shot, and it'll be about him putting in the work in the gym, putting up so many shots to where he feels comfortable with it, and he's able to knock it down at a high rate. they're playing scrimmage games right now, and he's currently on the court.
Also from the Asher Record Live fan feedback, speaking of which, this comes from a NASCAR guy. He says, I know nothing about how the NBA draft works, but was curious if overseas players also have to complete a year in college. And I don't think that, at least, how it's set up and how it's currently done, you don't have to. But I know that I was still hoping that they would get rid of that dumb rule where you have to stay in for a full year or be a year removed from high school before you made the jump to the NBA, but it doesn't look like it's going away. But as far as how all that goes and the draft, it's different among all the leagues. In college football, it's you got to be a 3 years removed from high school. And in baseball, you can go pro right out of high school, or if you do decide to go to college, you got to be 3 years removed from that. But the NBA is the one that's kind of an interesting deal. But Joe, as far as overseas players, though, do they not count, or they still have to be, the age of 19 or at least a year removed from high school to be able to be in the NBA?
International players are a year younger. They're 18. So that's why there's this big argument as far as the players in the U.S. Why do they have to be 19 as their minimum age and a year removed from high school? And international players are 18. Now, part of that is because they played in professional leagues, and they may have been playing in leagues for maybe 4 years or so at the most. And so they do have a little bit more experience, and maybe the NBA views them differently because of already playing as pros. But it still needs to change here in the U.S., where it's not one and done. Players are able to go to the NBA straight from high school. Once that happens, it'll solve a lot of these players that are going to college still and knowing that they just wanting to go there to spend 1 year, even though they have other options out there where they could go overseas. They could go to the G League, but it's almost like they're being forced to go to college for that 1 year just so that they can go to the next level and get to the NBA.
Yeah, it seems long overdue and doesn't make much sense. So hopefully it gets changed sooner rather than later. But we're going to talk about that with a lot more as we go to the Jones & Son Diamond and Bridal Fine Jewelry Hotline. This time as we got Pat Bradley on, thanks to Motorsports Authority. And PB, appreciate you joining us, man. How you doing this afternoon?
Doing good, boys. I'm currently in the Granite State. You know what the Granite State is?
It's probably a lot of Granite States out there, but guessing that it's somewhere close to Massachusetts. Not far away. New Hampshire.
You got New Hampshire?
No, never been to New Hampshire. No. What does New Hampshire offer? What do they have?
Oh, New Hampshire's got a bunch of lakes, known for real. I mean, you could probably drive to. They got a really big lake, Lake Winnipesaukee, one of the biggest motorcycles on the East Coast, and Laconia. And in the wintertime, they got a bunch of skiing, Mount Washington. So there's a lot. It's not obviously as you'd imagine, but there's there's fishing. It's more type place.
So we're guessing you're there for the motorcycle rally, though, right?
There you go. Up in Laconia, it used to be wild. Sometimes, we would take a couple of summer vacations up to New Hampshire, and time where all the bikers would be with passion, and then like 50. They don't mess around, these guys. So it was just like, it was, something that you don't see too often when they do those big bike rallies, which I'm sure the one in Fayetteville draws, I don't know how big that one is, but I know it draws folks, so it's kind of that.
NBA draft lottery last night, PB. What did you think of the results there with the Spurs getting the number 1 overall pick, Victor Wembanyama?
Yeah. Well, if you didn't think the draft was rigged, now you know for sure the draft is rigged. I honestly, I would have liked to see any other team but the Spurs. I gotta be honest.
Yeah.
Nice. Portland would have been nice. I've always liked Houston and their organization, how they've done things. And that would have been that for a while. And of course, with Michael Jordan so close, possibility.
That would have been the most shocking had that one happened. Had they actually allowed that one to happen. Now, Houston, they have history just like the Spurs do with getting Yao Ming.
Yeah.
And so there's some history there. But when it did come down to those last two with the Spurs and Hornets, you already were thinking it's going to be the Spurs. There's no way they're going to allow the Hornets to do this and have to play for Michael Jordan's team.
No way. And, I don't know if it's a coincidence or, however, the San Antonio Spurs had multiple not just European, with Yao. So they've got a long history of having Frenchmen on the team. So, that is continue with the influence of the NBA in France and beyond.
Yes, it will. And
Houston's got a really good relationship with international, with because of some of the other players that they've had too. So I'm sure now, like the Nuggets are probably going to be. I'm sure on and
yeah,
was he? So, but in most countries.
There's a player that got drafted in last year's NBA draft, and he had one letter in his name that was different. His name is Nikola Jovic. So the V, hey, those are the only two differences in their name. So he hasn't really done a lot yet as a rookie this season. You didn't hear a lot from him, but I'm sure in the future those names will get crossed quite a bit because they're both from Serbia also.
Yeah, and that's the other thing we forget is the draft and stash, right? Isn't that what they call it?
Yes.
There's that are drafted, that are young, strictly play in the European leagues, 18, 19 years old. And they continue to play sometimes 4 years. Well, I don't know how long you maintain the draft for those guys. Yeah, I know they talked to a couple of them last night. I know the Celtics had a couple of them where, it's almost like if you go, you draft one of the European guys and, keep them over there, keep them developed. You still got those drafts. We'll put this draft as well.
So, PB, something we were discussing right before it came on. I know we've discussed it before, but, it just seems like the players coming out of high school and how it was so common, and they put that 1 year rule, and it felt like, okay, there's some momentum on getting rid of it to where you can come straight out of high school and go to the league. But a few weeks or even months ago, it seemed like it kind of took a backseat and doesn't look like it's even going to happen, at least not for the foreseeable future. I don't understand why this is a holdup or why this is a problem. Like, what could possibly be the negative of going back to the rule that it once was, where you could come straight out of high school compared to what it is now? Like, what's the negative there?
And the only thing I think of is, if you're 18, the one thing you want information, and they would like to see here to see, and that could be one of the reasons, because it's so difficult to gather information that's just playing the AAU circuit. James, who competes in these, with NBA guys, You know how he matches up, and there's even been a few Garnett, who you just know. So I think it may be that it's just, instead of flux. And the other is if they allow, and they'll have to figure out, because if you got, I don't know, let's just say, pick a number, 20 high school kids who say, well, I'm going to put my name in the draft, or I'm not going to sign a scholarship and get feedback. So think about too is there going to be a deadline when if they do that rule? Is there going to be a deadline, or when a high school player is like, can I go through the process like colleges do? Can I go through the NBA draft? Like, get good feedback. Can I go back to college? Can I go to college? So I think that, because if you're a decent high school, if you're American, well, okay, I'll go through the draft process. So I think that would probably get enough too.
That would be an interesting dynamic if they did decide to get that deep into it and go that direction, because when players were coming out of high school before, it wasn't as deep as it is now with the NBA draft combine. They did have pre-draft camps and they had games where you can get in front of scouts, but it wasn't to this level.
See it too. You take an example, a kid like Imani Bates, and there's tons of them. Kentucky had a couple of them last year, or not 2-3 years ago. These kids run and done. But then they're to come, and you get a guy in that situation, how they're going to develop. And so, I mean, we see it. There's the numbers on who end up going, who end up being one and done. Because each year, and I mean, we can look at last year's draft and see how many freshmen were drafted. And of course, McDonald's All-Americans through the G League and all that stuff, but I think it is. I think there's still elect to stick around for year two.
All right, PB, we just got about a minute or so with you. You got the Celtics and you got the Heat, Eastern Conference Finals. How do you see this series playing out?
What scares me is tend to take quarters off, games off sometimes, and it seems like something we always talk about. Like we've been talking, or at least the last few years, how these guys don't have it in like that. Like you watch, I mean, he's mad when he plays. Just compare him to the best of the best. I get it, but even Green, he plays angry. I just don't see because they're not sheer talent, and believe me, they're talented. They are arguably the most talented team overall. So yeah, they should win. But what scares me is Jimmy Butler. He's that guy that brings it every game, every play. Take game plays up. 7. So I'm going to say it's Celtics in 7. But I'm in the pint. Take the pint.
There it is. Got a little bit of wagering info there from PB. Get on that bet, Sarah.
That's right. Take the Heat with the pint. Lay the points. I don't even know how terminology.
PB, real quick, give a shout out to those folks at Motorsports Authority, the fine people.
Store.com. That's MSAstore.com. Pre-owned vehicles, accessories for your vehicle in the state of Arkansas. go by, check them out online, msastore.com for their locations.
All right, PB. Have a great weekend, man. We'll catch up with you next week.
Be safe.
See you, PB.
All right, we got more Wide Open Wednesday live from Fassler Hall here in Little Rock as part of the 2023 One Razorback Road Show. Coming up next. Stay with us. It's Out of Bounds here on a wide open Wednesday. So we are broadcasting live from Fassler Hall here in Little Rock. Appreciate everybody listening. Appreciate Pat Bradley joining us in the previous segment as well. And since it's a wide open Wednesday, we want to continue to hear from you and talk about anything in the sports world that you want to talk about. You can call or text in at 501-661-1037. Get after us in the Asher Record Live fan feedback. After me on Twitter at BuzzJohnNabors. And in fact, we've had a few things that people have been chiming in on our first Arkansas Bank and Trust text line. This comes from the 209 area code. Don't get very many of those, but it says, I'm sure you guys have discussed it, but do we have any updates on Ron Holland? No. Still the same thing, though. It's he's waiting on his national letter of intent to be able to be released from Texas. They have yet to do it as they are investigating to make sure there was no foul play and anything like that, but just waiting on that. So if you want to yell at somebody, if you want to blame somebody, just blame Texas. I think that's probably the best way to do it.
They may not want to let him go. That may be the holdup, that they're just holding out on that.
Which I get it, but at the same time, man, if somebody doesn't want to be there, like, I don't know, maybe they're trying to throw in some stipulations of where you can or can't go. I don't know how all that works, but I just don't know why you would, if somebody didn't want to be there, regardless of how good they are or how talented they are, as a coach, I'd just be like, all right, well, fine, don't be here. Like that would be my mentality, but maybe there's more to it that they're trying to figure out. So,
well, the one thing that you can add to that is, and this is something that was pointed out on Drive Time, if he doesn't get released from the NLI, National Letter of Intent, then he can still go to another school, but he just won't be able to be on scholarship. So he could technically go anywhere he wants to go. He just couldn't be on scholarship. And then if they don't release him and he didn't want to go that route, of course, G League is hanging out there if that's what he really wants to do.
Yeah, because that's the one thing that I kind of kept bringing up to people when they were, seeing how the G League and Arkansas were the ones that were in the mix and all of that. So I was like, well, it's got to be Arkansas, at least at this point. As things can change, but at this point, it has to be Arkansas, because if it was the G League or if that's where he's leaning, he wouldn't be trying to get out of his national letter of intent. Like, he could just go. But that's why I still believe and still lean towards Arkansas being the choice for him. But in this day and age, man, you can't put guarantees on anything. But no, we don't have any sort of more updates as far as what we talked about last week or even the week before. But as soon as we do, we'll know.
Remember, we were talking about players that aren't on scholarship, but they decide to go to a school, and then they have some NIL that essentially pays for their schooling. And we talked about how rare that would be, and we probably couldn't see that happening. This is a case where something like that does fit the mold of it. Now, it's not likely that happens, but this is one of those situations where everything would be in the mix to make that happen.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that they could find some sort of scholarship that he could be on, academic or, some sort of, some sort of student from Texas. I'm sure that there's so many scholarships and grants out there. You could find something for him somewhere, I'm sure, if he wanted to do that route. But yeah, you're right, though. That would be the one time where it's like, yeah, this makes the most sense of trying to, get him on scholarship, or at least pay for his schooling when he can't be officially on scholarship, because they would find a way, and because he's that good of a player. Also in the Asher Record Live fan feedback, this comes from Lee, says, going off what you guys are saying, the best teams in the regular season are rarely at the top at the end. Prime example is the 2011 St. Louis Cardinals. Literally made it in on the wild card the last day of the season on one of the, if not the craziest plays in sports history, for sure baseball. Then they barely squeaked by in their playoff series, and they were down to their last strike in Game 6 of the World Series. Pigskin Preacher hates that 2006 Cardinals team for that same reason. So,
well, we can look at we can look at the past few years, and we can go by seeding, or we can go by record and see how many in across all sports, how many of those top seeds or the teams that had the best record in their leagues, how many of those went on to win the championship, and it probably wouldn't even be half of them.
Well, I mean, I'd be curious just to take, especially professional sports too, the big three of NFL, NBA, and MLB, and see the percentages of the teams, maybe not even just the top team, but just the top 2 or 3 teams, and each season, regular season record and all of that, and see how many times that those teams actually ended up winning the championship, which I'm not saying it's impossible. It has happened, but There's been a lot of times, even in the NFL, how many times have we seen a few wild card teams end up winning the Super Bowl? I know the Steelers did it one year. The Giants, one
Did
of the
it
most
the next year.
yeah, like one of the most memorable
back to
ones.
back.
Yeah, of beating the Patriots, the undefeated Patriots at the time. They were a wild card team, so it does happen a lot there. And in the NBA, I don't think an 8 seed has never gotten there and won it. In fact, I don't even know what the lowest seed would be. Sure, that it's something we could look up, but the lowest seed to ever win the NBA championship. But the Lakers would definitely, if they ended up winning it this year, even the Heat, what position they were in, if either of them win the championship this year. You would think that they would be the lowest seed to ever do it. But the point is that, it happens a lot in sports, college, professional, everything, where just because you had the greatest regular season doesn't always mean you win the championship. The only exception maybe is college football, because for so long and really to this day, there's so limited amount of teams in postseason that in most cases you see the best team in college football in the regular season end up being the best team at the end of this postseason because they win the championship.
And that's something that could change due to playoff expansion. When we're talking about 12 teams as opposed to 4, now you're going to incorporate more teams. Now, you still would expect some of the better records to emerge through that, but we've even seen with 4 teams that there were a 4 seed. There was a 4 seed that won in Ohio State. I believe they were a 4 seed. They weren't the 1 or 2. So they were at least a 3 or 4. Don't think a 3 seed has ever won it. So thinking they had to be a 4 seed.
That would make sense. Also, First Arkansas Main Trust text line from the 501 says Jordan Walsh's measurements and performance at the camp alone will make him a first-round pick. Comes from Simply J. So he's very impressed by what he did in the combine. Says that already he's going to be a first-round pick just based on that alone. All right. I haven't really looked at a whole lot of NBA mock drafts here recently, Joe, but have you seen any that has Jordan Walsh as a first-round pick? I've seen a few with seconds, but I haven't seen first-round picks.
Haven't seen any recently, but, yeah, that's a quick search away where we can find that. But, yeah, he is rising up draft boards, and he's currently playing in the game that's going on right now, so they're getting a good look at him, and they got his measurements, and they're looking at not only the measurements, but they start looking at potential, because he does fit the bill of what they look for at certain positions, and they would like to see him be a 3-and-D type player, where they know that he is a good defender, and if he's capable of knocking down that 3-point shot, that's kind of where the game is. They like those type players.
So what'd you make of Nick Smith not being measured or anything like that? Is that something that's any reason to have some sort of like concern or anything? Or is it just kind of like it happens pretty often? Some guys just don't want to go through that.
It's common that it's not common that it happens where you have several players that will do it, but it's common in the sense that out of each draft class, you'll have somebody that doesn't want to go through certain parts of the workouts, but not getting measured, the reason that you wouldn't get measured is because there have been certain measurements that have been put out there, and you're not quite what those measurements say. But we hear that every year with the NBA draft. Even the Razorbacks that were measured this year, Anthony Black came in at 6'5 3/4, which is technically 6'6". You're going to round up on that. But we always heard that he was 6'7", maybe close to 6'8", and he's actually right at 6'6".
Maybe it was his wingspan, because maybe that's what they were measuring during the Razorback days, because his wingspan was at 6'7.5". But no, you're right. He came in a little bit shorter, and Jordan Walsh even, I kept thinking he was 6'7", but he came in at the same size at 6'5 3/4. But how incredible is this, though, that Anthony Black has a wingspan of 6'7.5". Jordan Walsh has a wingspan of 7'1 3/4, almost 7'2" of a wingspan. That's the type of stuff that really stands out to you when it comes to measurables and talking about players and stuff. When you see a player that is listed at 6'5", 6'6", but has a wingspan that is well over half a foot longer than what it is your height, that's an impressive deal.
They know that he would be an incredible asset on the defensive end. So, as mentioned in the comment there, yeah, he's getting to the NBA just on that alone, the measurements and the potential, and then it's going to be about adding to his game from there.
Yeah, I think that's, as far as what they got from Jordan Walsh in the measurables, and then, of course, he did it all, too. He did the vertical leap, the 3-point drill, spot-up shooting, You said the side, mid, side shooting. He's going through it all. Even the 3/4 court sprint, he ran in 3 seconds. So he's doing all he can to try to showcase his measurables, his abilities, and his skill sets to try to get a high draft pick this year in the NBA.
And another reason for Nick Smith Jr., maybe he wants to see which teams are going to reach out to him individually, and then they'll get all that information once he gets in front of certain teams. I guess he didn't want the entire league to have it, but when he gets these one-on-ones and these teams show interest in him, then they'll get all the information that they need from him.
I guess we'll find out. Hopefully we hear from him soon, but we're up against it. Got to take a commercial break. When we come back, we'll have more Wide Open Wednesday live from Fassler Hall here in Little Rock, and we'll have some fun also with the Razor Hog update presented by True Service. All coming up next here on Out of Bounds. It's Out of Bounds on a wide open Wednesday, live from Fassler Hall here in Little Rock, part of the 2023 One Razorback Road Show. And actually going to have Terry Prentice once again joining us in the 3 o'clock hour, around 3:05. He'll talk to us about the event and as well as some updates on everything going on with the NIL and the progress that they made. And, Sam Pittman, he's going to be here tonight. So, yeah, I may get a chance to hear from him on Drive Time Sports. But apparently he's dealing with a lot of recruits right now, which is a good thing, and talking to him. So maybe we'll have some good news as the day goes on of some commitments or anything from the football side of things. So, but we'll have Terry on and we'll have some fun with him and talking about everything that's going on with the Razorback Roadshow. And also, we'll have your Razor Hog update in a second. But on First Arkansas Bank Trust text line, SB Nation, this comes from 501. SB Nation has AB going number 10, Nick Smith Jr. going number 16, and Walsh going number 30. So we were talking about if Jordan Walsh had any mock drafts of where he was being listed as a first-round pick. There is apparently one from SB Nation that has all three of those guys going in the first round. So how about that?
Good deal. And as we said, that can change a lot between now and when the draft actually occurs. But yeah, it is good to see that they're thought of highly on some of the NBA mock drafts.
Yeah. I mean, listen, it's. I just typed in NBA mock draft on Google, and I just counted the first page of how many different outlets that had them, and I stopped counting at 27. So it's like, not to say that there aren't some that, are more legitimate than others, but, there's a reason why they're called mock drafts. It's just what people's opinions are and where they think it's going. But I will say, though, Joe, every single one of them that I at least saw the first pick was old Victor. I think it'd probably be a good safe bet to say that he's going to be the number one pick. So at least they were consistent with that. I was about to make fun of somebody if they did not have him as number one.
You don't have to pencil him in. You can write that in pen. You can write that in marker that can't be erased. He will be the number one overall pick.
Yeah, that's one of those Charles Barkley guarantees that you can make for old Victor going number one overall to the Spurs. So. We just got a few minutes until we hit the top of the hour updates, and there's some things going on in the Razorback landscape. So let's go ahead and jump into your Razor Hog update presented by True Service. All right, so for your Razor Hog updates, we've talked about it already today, but in case you're just joining us, we'll mention it again. Sad news for Razorback baseball as Peyton Stovall, our guy that joins us each and every Monday, but will continue to join us each and every Monday, suffers a torn labrum that he's going to have surgery on, and he will be out for the rest of the year. So really hate to hear that. Peyton Holt is going to be the guy that steps up in the stead of Peyton Stovall. So go from one Peyton to another Peyton, but I know that Stovall is sad that he can't be out there, but he has texted me and given himself, reason, or given fans at least reasons to feel encouraged. Hey, it's going to be all right. He's going to be back better than ever next season, and have a lot of confidence in Peyton Holt and the job that he's done. So glad to know that he's in good spirits, still traveling with the team. In fact, they're on their way to Nashville right now. So he's still with the team and still going to be rooting them on, even though he is out for the year. And speaking of which, as far as the other side of things, is Arkansas is going to be taking on Vanderbilt starting tomorrow night. Vanderbilt might be down 2 starting pitchers. I know everybody's dealing with injuries, and so far it's been going on this year, especially for the Razorbacks. But according to Vanderbilt coach Tim Corbin, who's speaking on radio in Nashville at WPRT, he says that the Commodores will be without left-handed starter Carter Holton, and the status is undetermined for left-handed starter Hunter Owen. Hunter Owen has been really good this year. He's 4-0 with an ERA of 3.16, but did not pitch last week against Florida, and doesn't look like he's going to be pitching again this weekend. And then Holton, who is 4-1 this year, and also one of their better pitchers, he's not going to be playing at all. Like, he's for sure ruled out. So I know that injuries are never something that's people can predict or know when it's going to happen, but also Arkansas is not really going to feel sorry for anybody else dealing with injury issues. So in that respect, it looks like Vandy's going to try to get their guys healthy, and could be something that Arkansas can take advantage of and take care of business there as well. Also, in some other Razorback news, because we know with baseball season going on right now and everything, we talked about some of the measurements that the Razorback basketball players went through. And Anthony Black and Jordan Walsh both listed at 6'5 3/4, about an inch and a quarter less than what they were listed at in the media guide. And Ricky Council was also at 6'5 when he was listed at 6'6 on the Razorback roster. Pretty much everything was stayed the same, and he's actually in a position to where he could be drafted into the early second round. Nick Smith did not do any measures, but still, most people believe he's a first round pick. So we'll see how that plays out for him. But so far, it's been really good for the Arkansas players that have been a part of it, and even Musselman's still moving and shaking. And he took a picture of him being on the road show, and now he's also up at the NBA Combine, so he's there in attendance, going to be checking it out, which I think is really cool. And of course, Joe, he's got to do his marketing where he says he's wearing a shirt that says Pro Hogs to let everybody know that who he is, why he's there, and the amount of pros that they're going to have in the NBA from guys that he coached this past year too. So I thought that was pretty smart of him.
Oh, it's great marketing. It is great marketing to still have that connection with the guys that have come through Arkansas and then they've made it to the NBA. And we know that he has deep NBA connections. So, yeah, it's good.
Yeah, let him know about it, Muss. Also, some other Razorback baseball news. Zach Morris, we know he's a pitcher for Arkansas that we didn't get to see much of. No, not the guy from Saved by the Bell, but he was named to the SEC Community Service Team, all SEC Community Service Team, I should say, for his accomplishments beyond the field of competition, which we know there's a lot of different awards that get handed out, whether it's academic honor rolls or whatever it may be. But anytime it's community service team, that's somebody who gives back to their community through superior service efforts. And Zach partnered with Fayetteville Youth Baseball and was able to help celebrate the unveiling of new baseball fields at Kessler Mountain Range Regional Park in Fayetteville, as well as in Cabot. So really cool to see that, and congratulations to him. And that is your Razor Hog update presented by True Service. We will take a top of the hour update coming up next as we are live from Fassler Hall here in Little Rock, getting you ready for the 2023 One Razorback Road Show. Doors open at 5:30 tonight. We'll have Terry Prentice on, talk a little bit about the event tonight, as well as the NIL and how it's going so far with Arkansas since the last time we were able to catch up with him. So we'll get to that and a lot more coming up in the third hour of Out of Bounds. All coming up next. Stay with us. 2 hours down, 1 hour to go. Appreciate everybody listening in on this beautiful day here in the great state of Arkansas. John Nabors broadcasting live from Fassler Hall here in Little Rock. And you're ready for the 2023 One Razorback Road Show starting tonight at 5:30. Got our guy Joe Franklin back in the Hogs Meat Market Studios with you today. And thank you as always for making us a part of your afternoon this afternoon. It's a great wide open Wednesday, and we're going to be joined by Terry Prentice of the University of Arkansas and talk about NIL with him, as well as the One Razorback Road Show here tonight taking place. They've been all over the place, too. Got to see Eric Musselman over in Batesville.
Hey, Coach Muss is actually on the set at the NBA Draft Combine right now, so we can listen in to some of that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Ricky Council about to play right now is a fourth Razorback player that's here. So it's really cool to have those type of numbers at such a prestigious event.
Muss, could you talk about Ricky Council a little bit? He transfers in from the American. He was the sixth man of the year in the American and ends up being your leading scorer. Can you tell the folks about his skill set?
Well, Ricky's a guy he's one of the best athletes in the draft. He can really score the basketball. He's a very good defender. A guy that can really draw free throws, and his game goes to a whole nother level when you can get him in isolation situations, or if you can get out in transition. He's an incredible finisher on the break.
Yes.
Muss, my last question for you. Of course, when guys decide to jump on the Muss bus and they come to Arkansas.
Is that what it's called? The Muss bus?
It is.
You know about the Muss bus?
It is.
Can anybody there outwork you?
No.
There you go. I knew the answer. I just wanted you to tell the world this guy is a maniac. He outworks them all.
What
no
do you
question
mean,
about
Corey?
it.
Give us an example.
Weightlifting, running, cardio.
What time are you waking up to work out?
Well, I had an early flight today, so I got up at 4:45. But normally it's 6 o'clock workout. I mean, the best thing is when a guy comes in to shoot and he thinks he's going to be the first one in the gym, and his coach is already there.
and let me tell you this, too. Coach ain't wearing a shirt. I'm just going to let you know. He ain't going to have a shirt on.
Going on Mike Gray on us.
Hey, I am not mad at it. Coach Musselman, thanks for spending some time. We're going to let you enjoy this second scrimmage. Ricky Council getting set to do his thing for the second scrimmage. We will have that tip coming up after this quick.
Very cool. Very cool. How about that? Well, he had the Pro Hog shirt on, right, Joe? He was wearing it, right?
Oh, absolutely. He had the hoodie going.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So, yeah, good to see that, and good to it's just nice to have, anytime coaches can go on and talk with, people and experts and go to some place like the NBA Draft Combine. It's great. It's great marketing, and it just shows you how much respect that Muss has of getting guys into the pros, and he's feeling himself too, because he's like, hey, I'm not here just for the sake of my health. I'm here because I got some dudes that are about to get drafted into the NBA. So that's awesome to see that, and seeing the recognition that Arkansas and Eric Musselman's getting for the job he's done too.
They were actually talking about Nick Smith Jr. as we were coming back from break, and so they were asking him about him and saying that they realized the potential that he has, and he had some setbacks during the season due to injury, but they expect that with everything they know about him, and whenever he gets some of these workouts with teams, that he will be able to impress these teams the way that he's been impressing them for the past few years as far as the NBA scouts and what they know about him.
See, that's great. That's great that he's going to be going through that process too, and also trying to get that's as high of a draft pick as he can get, because we know the number one player out of high school is always going to be looked at in that way. But once he gets on the court, and especially getting the type of speak that he got from Eric Musselman and the confidence that he has in him too, it's just a matter of showcasing his abilities and getting out there and showing everybody what he's made of and what he's capable of. So I'm sure he's eager to get back out there and get over this injury that he's been dealing with and nagging with, and show that, hey, it wasn't just a high school thing. I'm a guy who's ready for the professional leagues right now too.
Oh, right. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. He's going to be good to go, and it's just going to be great to see these guys go through the process and some of the information that comes out over the next few weeks before we get to that point of the NBA draft.
Yeah, it'll be here before we know it. So, we're going to call up Terry Prentice, the University of Arkansas, and talk to him about what to expect out of the event tonight here at Fassler Hall. We were having some fun, and Sam Pittman's going to be here as well, so we look forward to having him around, and thinking as he's been in good spirits here recently, and how things have been going for him and the team and the transfers and everything. So, looking forward to hearing from Coach Pittman and seeing, how he's approaching too, which it's funny. He's been recruiting. Muss has been recruiting on these road trips that they've been doing. They've just all been recruiting here.
Yeah, they're going to continue that. So during the off season, that's exactly what needs to be done to make sure you still have that talent coming in and you're able to coach them up. Now here with the NBA Draft Combine, they just put out a best available top 10, and Anthony Black was listed at number 8.
How about that? Number 8. Take that all day long. Arkansas hasn't had a pick like that high in quite some time. Joe Johnson was the last pick that they had that was that high up on the draft board. We was taking 10th overall. So that would be awesome. Again, it would be awesome for everybody, but especially for Anthony Black and being able to be a top 10 pick in the NBA draft, a lottery pick, and getting that big money and working towards it. It's going to be fun to see what type of impact he can have on the NBA immediately.
It's going to be interesting. It'll be fun. Just watching it all happen.
Yeah, we'll see how it plays out. But I love it. I love the fact that you got talk about it. And Arkansas, they've had some players get drafted into the NBA. And the job that Eric Musselman's done here recently, you've gotten a lot more. I mean, even guys like Portis and Ronnie Brewer and Daniel Gafford and, everybody, the fact that you've been able to have those draft picks have been great. But when you become a program that is perennially putting guys in the NBA draft, that's what's important. Like that's something to where you can really hold your hat on and make it all possible to where you can just continue to build up the program and everything. Like that's what you want to have. That's what you want to see out of the program itself. Because then you start getting the attentions of all these other high school kids who are like, hey, I'm thinking about going somewhere for college in this 1 year. Where do I want to go? Well, I want to go someplace that's going to give me that he's going to be the best place to go for him, or where I can get going pro every so often. Like that's the thing that people want. They want to be put in the position to where they can get drafted as quickly as possible. So I think that they're going to be in a great shape anytime they come through Arkansas. And Ricky Council is a guy. I think he's a prime example where. He was at Wichita State where it wasn't in a particular situation to where he was going to get drafted there as the 6th man of the year. But coming to a place like Arkansas, it proves even a transfer can come in and to get drafted too. So we'll see how it plays out for them. But we know that with the Razorback Road Show going down tonight at Fassler, and the one Razorback Road Show, I should call it, it's been great seeing some of the Razorback coaches and Hunter Yurchek and everybody just traveling all over the state. And Little Rock is the stop tonight. And so we'll get to see Sam Pittman as well as us and a lot of others. And we'll talk more about it. Let's go to the Jones & Son Diamond and Bridal Fine Jewelry Hotline and welcome in our guy, Terry Prentice, friend of the show, who has come on with us a few times, mainly talking about NIL, which I know we'll get to, but also, of course, being the Senior Associate Athletic Director for the University of Arkansas. And Terry, man, we appreciate you joining us once again, man. How you doing?
Hey, fellas, good to be on again. Feel like,
yeah, I know it's just a reoccurring thing at this point in time, man. And I know that you've been a busy man. So let's just talk about the one Razorback Road Show, which I think is something that is fairly new that the university's been doing. I know it's been going on for a few years now, but going all over the state and checking it all out and everything, it seems like it's been quite a success. I know it'll be a success here at Fassler tonight too. So what was the idea behind all of this, and what's been the results as far as the reactions and the people showing up and people being a part of it?
Started about 5 years ago. Hunter Yurchek had a vision of wanting to unite the state and taking a week to do so, and him leading by example and getting on a group of band members and spirit squad and really leading by example and getting out and touching all parts of the state and connecting with our kids. And then, the idea really being that the folks around the state come to Fayetteville so often to support us and really get our student athletes, giving them home field advantage. We owed it to them to take at least 1 week in the spring and travel the state. So we came back we're in year 5. Began on Monday. We stopped school, and yesterday continued into Wynn and West Memphis and Memphis area, and then today moved over into Marietta and now here in Little Rock. So we'll continue around and be here in the capital city.
Terry, we can imagine that when you get farther away from Fayetteville, when you get to Eastern Arkansas, South Arkansas, that you get a really big response, because that's a little farther away from the campus, and people in those areas may not have a chance to make it to Fayetteville as often. Um, are these some of the cities? Do they change year to year, or have you guys hit some of the same cities on the tour each year?
They my associate AD, is really engaged in community development and engagement. So he's been working behind the scenes year after year to make sure that we touch different communities and gone from place to place throughout the year. We had some good stuff and really tackled McGee and El Dorado and Texarkana, so really the southern and western part of the state. And this year decided to really focus a little bit more so on Eastern Arkansas. So, yeah. And I can't tell you how excited the folks were in Marianna today for lunch at a packed house, and we're excited to continue the tour. But yeah, great reaction from folks all across the state, and some of the small that are along their way from the campus in Fayetteville. I know they appreciated having us out and getting to meet the man, listen to the band.
Also, Terry, I know that people who have been going to these before, they kind of know what to expect, but maybe there's going to be some people here in Little Rock, at least, that'll be coming out here to Fast Fair that's never been to the road show. So what kind of can people expect to see here and to be a part of and get to be seeing just overall with everybody coming into town?
Going to be ready to take pictures, sign some autographs, still speak to the group there at Foster Hall and give them some insight on his program and things that are happening on the Hill. Hunter, during our staff, hopefully give an inside look on what's going on inside the program, maybe facility projects that are upcoming, what our student athletes have been accomplishing, and really what he views from his seat as athletics director. And then we bring up again our spirit squad, our band, and just giving people an opportunity to our folks, our staff members, our coaches, and really just celebrate all the success that Razorback Athletics have had and been doing in their turf and their community tonight.
Little Rock, North Little Rock, Jacksonville, communities here in Central Arkansas, they were affected by a tornado, but also Wynn was affected by the tornado. And yesterday you had the opportunity to make a stop in Wynn, and also able to tie that in with the Tornado Relief Community Service Fund there. So really great deal in being able to stop through and see how the people in Wynn are able to recover going through their efforts with tornado relief there.
People of the state and Razorback fans, whether you're an alum or somebody that just loves the Hogs, they've done so much to us. The least we could do is use our platform, Flagship University, the state, and our staff and our coaching to go down and provide support when needed. That's what we do at our campus. We support one another. So I think we couldn't have been any happier to go down and help the people of Wynn.
Speaking with Terry Prentice here on the Jones and Son Diamond and Bridal Fine Jewelry Hotline. And Terry, I know we talked about NIL with you last time, and I'd be remiss if I didn't bring it up with you again. Just since we last spoke, there's developments, there were things that you were working on, and also the school itself that we're putting into place. So just how has that developed since the last time that we talked to you? How has the responses and results have come along, and just how is everything going as far as an update on NIL at the U of A?
I just think our student athletes really capitalizing on the success we're having as a department. I think the two go hand in hand. I've been on record saying that over the past 2 years. We've got some merchandise for sale now, Nike baseball jerseys, time ever, so fans can go and purchase officially licensed merchandise and customize that with a player's name and number on that. Seeing as we're Coach Van Horn's got our team in a great spot and hopefully positioned towards a national seed. We know that we'll have postseason events inside Baum Walker Stadium, so it'll be a great time for fans to jump on and favorite student athlete and wear that so they'll be able to see them. We also have an online marketplace that has hoodies, t-shirts, jerseys, with student athletes name and number and NIL on them, and that goes for our softball team, some of our track and field athletes. So again, those sports that are in season now, fans are able to support. One, give a plug for them again, and make sure that people understand that that's a vehicle that we need to be able to continue to be successful as a program. So any support that Razorback fans across the state and beyond can provide to One Arkansas through the contributions there would certainly be appreciated. That's one ArkansasNIL.com, led by Marvin Caston and his great staff there. So that we've done in the meantime, and hopefully more to come.
People may not realize the numbers that we're dealing with here. How many student athletes are we talking about across all sports there at the U of A?
65 athletes, and between last year and this year, I'd say at least 260, 270 have been engaged in NIL. So well over half of our student athlete population got 7 power teams. I mean, I've pointed out some. Majority of our football, men's and basketball teams have been engaged in NIL. So it's key. It's even helping our track and field program, and again, our softball, baseball teams, and others. So it's certainly been a game changer for us. It's something that we continue to lean into and want to be something that we can point to as a benefit to be a student athlete at the University of Arkansas.
Terry, something we actually talked about earlier, and it's relevant now, and especially it kind of worked out with you and, talking about NIL, but we talked about the fact that EA Sports is letting FBS football players to opt into their 2024 video game. I don't know if you were a big player of video games back in the day of NCAA football. I know I sure was, but do you have any idea on how that works, or at least maybe a little bit of an idea of what that's going to entail as far as, businesses and everything? I know you deal with more so, but when it comes to something like that, that's a hot commodity, and talking about video games, do you know any details on what that would entail altogether?
I guess first and foremost, John, I'd say I'm a pretty big fan of the game. Stopped in 2014, so we got a 10-year, 10-year window here that we hadn't had an NCAA football game. So I'm ready for it. I'll certainly, even at 34, the NCAA football video game. But no, kept in the loop for quite some time as to when the game's going to be coming online. And big announcement today. All athletes, the Razorback football team will have the opportunity to opt into being a part of the game, really with NIL now. The all student athletes were included. Obviously, some lawsuits took place that over the use of student athletes NIL. So now we're going back to athletes do have to opt into being a part of the game, but they will earn royalties and earn a percentage of being a part of the game and be able to see in action, which I think is awesome. And again, no different than players in the NFL playing, that are part of the Madden game. So what functionality would be part of the game? I'm assuming there'll probably be some kind of a dynasty mode, and you might be able to create your own player, create your own team like you could in the past. But they've been working with our campus and our licensing office to gather assets and song, colors, stadium, all those types of things. So it's and our student athletes have certainly been asking about it for the past 2 years. We've been asking when the game is going to come back. So it'll be coming soon.
Yeah, it's going to be so much easier than having to wait until somebody, put together the rosters, and then you could go and download them online and find some USB drive to plug in. It was just a hassle. But now to get all those rosters, but now you don't have to worry about it anymore once that comes around. But Terry, it's great to have you on. We appreciate it, and we look forward to the event tonight here at Fassler for the One Razorback Road Show. It's going to be a great event. I know you're going to have a great turnout too, and we look forward to seeing you as well as Coach Sam Pittman and all the other Razorback people involved. So we appreciate it, man.
An RSVP, still feel free to come on out to Fassler Hall. Doors open at 5:30, and then we'll start at 6.
All right, sounds great. Appreciate it, Terry. Safe travels, my man.
Thanks. See you guys.
All right, that was Terry Prentice talking a little bit about the One Razorback event tonight here at Fassler Hall, which is where we're live at. And we only got a half an hour left. Man, the show's been flying by, but Drive Time Sports is going to be live from here as well. So we'll take a commercial break. When we come back, we'll get to some other headlines. We get some more phone calls and messages that we'll get to. 501-661-1037 is that number to call or text in on a wide open Wednesday. And we'll keep it moving on Out of Bounds coming up next. It is Out of Bounds, broadcasting live from Fassler Hall here in Little Rock. Folks, I got to tell you about Gwatney Chevrolet. Now is the time to buy. We know that anytime that the warm weather comes around, you start to get that itch to get you a new vehicle. Well, get you one of the nicest and most comfortable and most everything vehicles from Gwatney Chevrolet, because interest rates, they're struggle for a lot of us. Let's be honest about it. But the thing is, it never rains on Gwatney Chevrolet's parade, because across the entire Chevrolet lineup, Gwatney is offering a super low 1.9% ABR on new Blazers, new Equinoxes, new Trailblazers, new Traverse, and new Silverados equipped with a powerful 2.7 Turbo Max engine. So, yeah, you get that new vehicles is what they're offering that on. And they're still actively buying late model vehicles across the board. They're getting vehicles out there. So if you have one to sell, stop by for an appraisal. They'll give you an offer, and then they'll let you, and you just got to let them write at you a check. It comes down to that. It's as simple as that. Even if you still owe money on the vehicle, they're going to pay it off. It's that easy. You get 90 days with no payments with Gwatney Chevrolet. They got pre-owned vehicles good enough for mom. So even if you're not looking for something brand new, they got you taken care of with their great pre-owned selection. And it's right there in Jacksonville. It's easy, accessible. It's off the Gregory Street exit at 1301 TP White Drive. So no matter what your need may be, check out all the inventory, because they got plenty of it at Gwatney Chevrolet. You can also shop them online at GwatneyChevrolet.com. We have a few things going on in the sports world, as we know, especially with the One Razorback show coming up later tonight at Fassler Hall. But we also have a little bit of an update, which, of course, we know the Ja Morant situation in the NBA is one that's it's sparked a lot of controversy, but it's certainly one that is a sad situation that they find themselves in, and Ja and not being able to deal with the issues of guns, and having in his Instagram live video, it's just not been a good look. And there's been a lot of reactions from current players, former players. Everybody's given their thoughts, but one person that definitely is going to have their thoughts and opinion put into place, and something that is really going to matter, is the NBA commissioner, Adam Silver, who just recently expressed his shock at seeing the social media video of Ja Morant. And here's what he had to say about it. Also, Ja Morant took to his representatives of putting out a statement that says, quote, "I know I've disappointed a lot of people who have supported me. This is a journey, and I recognize there is more work to do. My words may not mean much right now, but I take full accountability for my actions. I'm committed to continuing to work on myself." So haven't heard of any solid things as far as what's going to happen to Ja or punishments or anything. We've heard people give takes of, maybe a smaller type of disciplinary action compared to some people saying it may be for a full year. But just going off of what the sound was there from Adam Silver, Joe, he's not taking this lightly, and he's definitely, you could just tell from the tone of his voice and everything, he's extremely disappointed and extremely shocked by the actions of Ja Morant in that video.
Just don't see it going from 8 games to a full year or even half a year. Now, going from 8 games to 25 games, you're talking about 3 times as many games. That's something that you can see that seems fair, but it doesn't always come down to what seems fair in the situation. But there will be some big-time consequences, and we know he's going to miss a number of games. He will miss out on a lot of money in missing those games. And then his endorsement deals, that's what's really in jeopardy for Ja at this point, as he keeps getting into trouble and, in the eyes of not only the NBA, but people on the outside that hold him in high regard and see him as a role model for a lot of kids. There are a lot of kids that look up to Ja Morant. And so that's where he stands to lose a lot of money off the court with the endorsement deals.
Yeah, that's the thing that a lot of people don't understand is obviously suspensions in games and everything is significant to a lot of these players. But then some people say, oh, well, they're superstars. What's a couple of games and the money they make? But as you brought up, Joe, with endorsements, that's where so much of their money is made. And when you start losing out on endorsements, that hits you pretty hard. And that can be something that's even more impactful than just being suspended games. I do agree. I don't think it'll be a full year. I feel like that would be, as you said, just going from 8 games to a full season. There's really no other precedent or no other punishment that happens to where if it's like, a first incident and then a second incident has that big of a gap between the disciplinary action. But I think it is going to be very significant. And I think it needs to be significant because it's just one of those deals to where it's like, you got to make good decisions. You got to take, as Josh said, he's taking accountability for his actions. You got to do it. But man, it just seems like all that he went through in that was 8 games and every statement that he made and talking about, he's sorry and he's going to work on himself and all that. It just, seems like all out the window. And I'm not saying he's not, sorry now because I don't believe, we know what he's going on in his mind or what's in his heart or anything like that. But I think that's also what makes it just really tough on just people in general to say, okay, man, you said the same thing last time, just a few months ago, and it didn't change anything. So I'm wondering if maybe Adam Silver, not saying he should or shouldn't, but it just makes me wonder if he's going to try to say, all right, let's make an example out of this and maybe go pretty above and beyond when it comes to the disciplinary actions towards him.
You can tell in that video also, and it's about the company you keep, the people you have around you. You can tell as soon as that happened where his friend realized that he was captured in that video, he tried to move the camera quickly. But if you're doing a live video, why is that even part of it to begin with? You stay away from the possibilities of that happening where the gun gets caught on video after the last incident. It just happened here recently. So take that out of the equation altogether. You just have to be smarter about it altogether.
Yeah, and that's the key phrase. You just got to be smarter than that. Like, I understand that a lot of people come from different backgrounds and, they're different ages and different maturity levels and different likes and dislikes. Like, everybody's different in everything. But it's just a matter of having the self-awareness to understand that what's the issue? Like, why is this a problem? Why is it a problem that you got punished the first time around? And, people want to see. And when I say people, I'm not just talking about fans. I'm talking about guys like Adam Silver, people who provide you endorsements and everything. They want to see you truly trying to do better and to be better from it. And so when they go through the processes of you getting onto you and punishing you in that, and then just months later it's back at it, they just throw up their arms. I'm like, man, what is it going to take for you to understand the seriousness of this and why it has to stop? That's what I think is just most disappointing about Ja Morant is he's got so much going for him. He's a superstar in the NBA. He's got a lot of money. He's got a lot of, as you mentioned, people looking up to him, kids looking up to him and everything. And to just have stuff like happen like that, it just want to pull your hair out because you're just like, there's no reason for it. Like, there's no, it would be one thing if it was some, you're protecting yourself or, you still have it around, or maybe, somebody took a video of it and you just were in your house and, someone saw it in a gun cabinet, just something like that. But when you're in a car and you're driving around, you're holding it up and everything, it's just, again, it's all about the perception and it's just a really bad look. It's a bad look overall. I just really hope that this is what he learns from, because it's just, he's got so much going for him. You don't want to see anybody ruin it or ruin what they have going for him off of something that's just so easily avoidable, like something like this.
And there's much more to it. And something that could work against him is he was punished for this incident before, but there have been other stories of off the court issues with going to see about his mom and, having an issue there at his sister's game, having the issue with the teenager that was at his house playing basketball and their incident and him filing a suit against Ja Morant. So all those things will be tied in when you talk about a history of some incidents here. And those are some of the other things that Adam Silver could take in as far as the overall what the punishment could be.
Yeah, I don't envy the situation that Adam Silver finds himself in because, it's ultimately going to come down to him and what he decides to do. And I'm sure we'll find out here pretty soon once they get together and decide on something. But, it's definitely just a bad deal all around. And just like I said, it's just so avoidable. It's so avoidable. So I guess we'll have to wait and see what ends up being that punishment. But either way, we are already, wow, man, it's just flying by. We're in our final segment here on Out of Bounds. We're going to take our final commercial break. We'll come back with 3 and Out as we'll tell you more about the 2023 One Razorback Road Show here at Fassler Hall in Little Rock, and also get you ready for Drive Time Sports as Randy Rainwater will be broadcasting live from here from 4 to 7 as well. You won't want to miss that. So always stay tuned here on Out of Bounds. All right, it is time for 3 and Out. A few headlines, a few storylines, a few things that we got to dive into. And first off, I saw that controversy. I don't say controversy, but it was still something that was just funny to me. Mark Jackson, we know a former coach of the Warriors before Steve Kerr took over, and of course has been on ESPN as an analyst and on ABC. He says that Doc Rivers is a Hall of Fame coach. He went as far as to say that, and he took a lot of heat from many different people, including a lot of people on social media, former players and analysts and everything like that. I listened. I started thinking about it. I was like, okay, Doc Rivers is a Hall. Okay, maybe. Then I remember. I was like, wait a minute. We're talking about the Basketball Hall of Fame, where say, hey, they get anybody and everybody in that they can for any sort of thing. So, wouldn't surprise me if he's a Hall of Fame coach. I'm not saying he doesn't deserve it, but I also didn't think it was that controversial of a take for Mark Jackson to have about Doc Rivers.
Pat McAfee's show is moving to ESPN, so the platform is going to carry it on several parts from ESPN. It's going to be on ESPN, ESPN Plus, ESPN's YouTube channel, and ESPN announced that they will have a new weekday afternoon schedule before the launch of the Pat McAfee show. They said in a statement, Pat is a proven talent. He and his team have built the Pat McAfee show into one of the most engaging programs in sports and all of media. And Pat McAfee also will continue his role as an analyst on ESPN's College Game Day.
Yeah, I saw that, and I meant to put that up in the what's trending. But here's the thing: I'm not a huge Pat McAfee fan. Like, I don't mind him, but I'm not like a fan of him. But I at least applaud ESPN for trying to go with something a little bit outside the box and something that brings in a different type of audience. I just hope that they don't get the treatment of what Barstool Sports did when they did the Stool Van Talk or whatever it was, where they had one episode of that thing and then it got canceled. Not to say that's the same situation, but I just hope that it works out, because I think that there is a lot of potential there for Pat McAfee to do a really good job with ESPN. Also with the Golden State Warriors, we know that they were eliminated by the Lakers, and Steve Kerr and Draymond Green both kind of alluded to the fact of why they're not still in the playoffs right now. And for Steve Kerr, he says anytime some trust is lost, then it makes the process much more difficult. And there was some trust that was lost. That's as blunt as I can be. We have to get back to what made it really successful, which is a trusting environment and a group that relies on one another to make each other better. Well, what does that have to do with anything? Well, is going back to the incident with Draymond Green and Jordan Poole, when Draymond Green punched Jordan Poole during practice, and the video went viral early part of the season. And even Draymond Green with Stephen A. Smith said something similar to it, where that was the incident that really changed and really had a whole role into it. So kind of crazy that just one thing that happened so long ago can have such a negative impact on the team as it goes on. But if it's something as serious as that and there's a problem in the locker room, it can be the make or break for you. And it looks like that was the reason why the Warriors just weren't able to get to the point they wanted to get to this postseason.
Follow up to the story about the wild card game from the NFL that's going to be streaming on Peacock. So you'll only be able to get that on streaming on their platform from NBC. It'll be on Peacock. It's going to be a Saturday night game, January 13th, 2024, and that's going to be at 8 p.m. Eastern. But for that one game, it's going to be in the range of $110 million. So it's not for a package over several years. Peacock is going to pay $110 million around that for just that one playoff game, that one wild card game that they're going to broadcast. And it's probably going to be that every year. And as we know, with some of these packages, the money just keeps going up. So it's $110 million for this year coming up, but it's only expected to go up as the years go along. And maybe they will have some type of a long-term agreement where they do it for so many years and they put a total package in for a certain amount. But for this year only, $110 million.
So, Joe, when you were in school, when you got to choose your milk, what did you go with? Did you go with whole milk, 2%, chocolate milk? What was the go-to for you?
Whole milk. But at some point, they wanted to be healthy, and I think they did convert where they made everybody go with 2%.
Oh, okay. Well, I always liked 2% when I was growing up, just because it was not something my family drank, so I drank. But I noticed a lot of my friends at the time, they were always about that chocolate milk. But according to CBS News and the New York Post, there's a story that apparently a chocolate milk ban may be coming. It's also according to the Wall Street Journal, and the Department of Agriculture is thinking of removing chocolate milk from public school cafeterias, along with all other flavored milks. because they have more sugar. People in favor of a ban say it could keep kids healthy and lower rates of childhood diabetes, which you just talked about keeping kids healthier, going from whole milk to 2%. Apparently, they're trying to take out the chocolate milk, strawberry milk, and other flavored milk there as well. But, I think that everybody's all in favor of keeping kids healthier too. But I don't know. I just don't think that much of a difference would be made from chocolate milk to 2% milk or anything like that. But I that's not my thing. But I just know that a lot of my friends back in the day would have been pretty upset if there ended up being a chocolate milk ban from public school.
So we heard from Joe Burrow talking about contract negotiations with the Bengals and just going through those thoughts that it's not only about him, but thinking about some of the teammates. Now, the Cowboys, they face some salary cap challenges also because even though Dak signed a contract not too long ago, he's going to be due for an extension soon. Dak, CeeDee Lamb, Diggs, and then eventually when Micah Parsons gets signed to what we expect to be a big contract, Stephen Jones was asked about that, and he said, I feel like once we move forward, everything's going to be all about timing. We'll be able to work within the parameters of the cap and make those types of things happen. So Stephen Jones said, even though it is going to be a challenge, he's not worried about it. They'll be able to make it all happen there for the Cowboys.
Everyone's always interested in Tom Brady's dating life now that him and Giselle have been broken up for a while. Well, here's some big breaking news according to Radar Online, and this is huge stuff that you just can't get anywhere else. But apparently Tom Brady's been hiding his misery quote and has found out, and this is, again, huge, that he is now dating a woman that is a blonde-haired superstar. That's the only information we have. I was like, wow, breaking news. A blonde-haired superstar. Who could that possibly be? What could that possibly mean? Don't really know, but Tom Brady and all the people that care about his love life, I guess that's all you get for right now.
Also, Daryl Morey, GM of the Philadelphia 76ers. As we know, they're in a coaching search. He's GM and team president of the Sixers. He said that they're going to take the process slowly, and they don't expect the move to happen quickly because the new coach will inherit Joel Embiid, but also the possibility of James Harden. So they need to take their time and make sure they find the right coach. Michael J. Go ahead.
Go ahead. Okay, I was going to say just an Instagram. Apparently, this new account was using AI to create the most beautiful women and AI models you've ever seen. And I'm looking at it and I'm like, you know what? I keep thinking AI is not as big of a deal as what people make it out to be. When I keep seeing more and more stuff like this, I'm like, you know what? That is a pretty scary thing. But apparently, they're making millions via Instagram just by putting together beautiful models that are AI driven.
Asked about the possibility of a reboot for Back to the Future, Michael J. Fox says he's not a fan of it, but do what you want. It's your movie. I already got paid. He says that I don't think it needs to be rebooted because what are you going to do? You're going to clarify something. You're going to find a better way to tell the story overall. I doubt it.
Yeah, let's just leave all those movies, their classics, alone, but especially one like Back to the Future. Appreciate everybody listening in Out of Bounds today. For Joe Franklin, I am John Nabors. Same sports show, same sports channel tomorrow afternoon. Stay tuned, folks. We got Drive Time Sports coming up next.